What's wrong with me?
Hmm?
Oh, sorry, what's wrong with me?
I think
You can't hear?
You're only in the right ear, I think. Is this?
For some reason, I can't ever get it to work with this. And I used to be able to get it to work with this.
Should I put my headphones on? Would that be better?
No, it's okay.
Oh,
It's
this is
just
good.
gonna sound like like you're on a phone call. There's a way to get
Does
it.
it make? Sometimes it sounds like people are better when they have their earphones in, like their earbuds.
It's gonna be what it's gonna be today. Hold on. Yeah.
Oh, I can hear you through my earbuds. Stop.
You there, Mom?
Yeah. Oh, I can really hear you.
Yeah.
And me?
Yeah. All right. Well, we got you. So we are sitting down.
I put my earbuds in.
Yeah.
Does it make a difference?
Makes a difference.
Okay.
Does that work for you? This always.
Who are you? Nothing. I was talking to the dog. Sorry. Go on. I'm interrupting you. Go ahead.
Well, this is our first Sunday to shoot the crap with our. It's funny, you get on these things and it changes the whole mood. We're gonna have to figure out how to do this. As soon as you get in front of these things, it just changes the whole mood. But since we are kicking off Cyberpunk Utopia, and in the spirit of me going back to art school. And then we were talking around the round table before we got on these big scary microphones about what does education look like in the next 20 years. Mom?
Oh, yeah, throw that with hot potato at me. So Paul and I kind of talked about this already in terms of...
Well, I wasn't really paying attention because I was cleaning, so why don't you guys enlighten?
Oh, okay. Oh. Well, you guys, your big thing is the discussion of AI and the education system. And succinctly, my thought was, why is it there to begin with? Why can't we step back and step forward to a relook at technology in the education system, and maybe like K through 12 is educating the human. And then after 12, you can start including technology as not an alternative. As something you can choose to take if you have an interest in it, or it's part of the curriculum, but it's a separate item, not part of the whole. And then after higher education, it's a free for all because you're old enough to be discerning. However, that won't work because corporations are fully engaged and have been for quite a while in the formation of a standard curriculum that includes their products. Apple's a good example. And they did a very, very good job of infiltrating the education system by calling it creative, which for a long time it was, but now it's not. So, I mean, I think about Aaliyah, who was actually struggling to figure out how to engage her daughter in school, because she's constantly got her electronics around. She's got her watch, and now they send home Chromebooks. And so Aaliyah said, so she goes into her room, shuts the door, and she's in there with her Chromebook. And Aaliyah said, I don't want the Chromebook. I mean, why can't they just educate there? Why can't they do their stuff in school and don't send the Chromebook home? And I thought, well, you want that? You need to get involved with why the Chromebook is coming home at all. Because,
well, maybe that's all right. Well, we really didn't back up, and it's been a while since Paul and I've sat down to do this. And we've started and stopped this conversation for a while, but you just launched into...
I would just blah, blah, blah.
Well, that's okay. It got me thinking and kind of resetting. It's like, well, what are we doing here? For me, I spent the last 4 or 5 years re-educating myself. And I am a dyslexic student who went through this school in the 80s and 90s and 2000s in a very standardized way. Did okay, got through, but I don't want to use the word trauma, but there were pieces of that process that I don't feel were the best. And I'm not talking about education in the grand scheme of things. I'm only going to come to this conversation with the education of myself, and offer it as a insight. And Paul gave me the best line once. He said, we're going to reverse engineer you. And this is kind of how we started this whole conversation, because Paul and I would just come in a corporate environment, although it was a startup. My boss, Daniel, said, come back to the office. And I'm like, the only way I'm doing that is if I'm talking to people. That's how we started Chatty Tuesdays. And
True story.
Hey,
true story.
Can Paul be in the video?
Yeah, you want
No?
him here.
Shouldn't you both be? Yeah. But not both.
This is just so
Okay.
you can see us.
Yeah, so we're not. So we've
Okay,
we've got the other camera over there that's pointing. You're not
Oh,
in that
okay,
one, I
okay.
guess.
It's okay. Don't worry.
That's fine. That's fine. I didn't know how this was looking, but yeah, go on. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
We might need a camera over there one day.
When we get
the
all
full-
professional and people actually care what we're saying. Right now, I just want
You'll get someone to do it for you.
we'll get somebody to do it
Yeah,
for
we're
us.
gonna do it in VR, 360.
Yeah, but at the heart of it, Paul gave me, as a peer, a place to start sharing my crazy ideas. And he never judged me. He just was curious about what I was saying, and we started riffing. And now that I've gone into art school, which I absolutely... Yeah, and started to realize that there are other ways that we can educate. And the Dutch call it uplighting. Like, how do we want to lead the younger generation? And my stick, after spending 4 or 5 years partying with kids here in Amsterdam, is that these kids are more aware than any other generation we've ever produced.
Mm-hmm.
And what they need are a bunch of adults. And unfortunately, we're going to have to grow ourselves up so that we can be adults for that generation. And that's kind of what I feel like Chatty Tuesdays was, for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Paul, you experienced it.
Yeah, so I'm curious about how you got to the point of I need to go to art school. That's my next step.
That's a great question. All right. So I am on a burnout from work. And fortunately for me, I live in the Netherlands that actually recognizes that. And as my Greek friend says, puts the risk if you burn out your employees and create an environment that burns them out, then you need to support them getting back into the workforce. So that being said, I had some time to reconnect with myself, and an opportunity came where my friend who is in the, how do I say this word wrong? The Rietveld Academy, which is the Dutch art school. And they do this orientation program that is open to everybody. I mean, there's an entrance and a homework assignment, and I think they do some filtering, but if you show intent and curiosity, I think they'll let you in. Which isn't to say that's true for their main program, but for at least that. And I thought it was wonderful because then you get a group of, people. I think the oldest guy is 66 and the youngest kid is maybe 16. So you have all these lifetimes of people. Mm. And yes, art school, well, to come back to the question of why I chose it, it came into my field. It was an opportunity. My mom was an artist. It is also a bit of, I don't quit. And the company that I work for, it's an education company. So I think there's a lot of value in me going back to school. Because before I left, one of the feedback that I got was that I hadn't spoken to any customers. Now, technically that was true. I hadn't really spent any time, at least in the last 6 months, talking to actual users, but I've spent 4 or 5 years working in this space, speaking to many people who are potential customers. And I'm going to move the word from user, which is the same thing as a drug dealer, to a customer. Yeah, it's important. And the one thing that I would be critical of my company is that not a single person has gone back to school and actually looked at it from the end user of the product, which is our students. And I don't think anyone in our company has uploaded a paper, except maybe some of the younger kids who work for us, into our service. I know I never did. Oh, we're going to have to figure out how to cough on this. So why did I go to art school? I wanted to go back to school. And
well, you could have gone back to engineering. You went to art school.
I have no, this is a working, very strong hypothesis that, and even in my role at the company, I stopped paying attention to what we were doing because we weren't creating anything new. We were taking the same thing.
There's the word. There's the word.
What's that?
Creating.
Yeah, we weren't creating. We were optimizing. We were making the system better. I think, Paul, you've said this to me, right? And at some point, you've optimized what you have in the market. We were copying what we had in the market and trying to make it easier for us to serve, which is a strategy. But it's interesting because in my tenure there, it also came to a point where AI blew onto the scene. And AI seems to be the conversation for education right now. And understanding, that's kind of how we started Cyberpunk Utopia, right? I think we came to this because it's a defining shift in humans, just like the trains, just like some of the other moments of time where we've created something that allows us. All right.
Hold on.
We lost the sound.
Do you have a speaker in there?
Yeah. Can you talk?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Hey, where's your deodorant?
She's recording, so it's in the other room.
Oh, sorry.
I thought she was going to join us.
I am.
Okay, go on. Sorry, Siddha, so you're going to have to edit. That's what editing is for.
Well, we're going to have to. This is not.
No worries. Today is a kind of a.
We need to figure out how we want to do
getting
this.
back on the horse.
Yes. There's good stuff in here. Well, I guess okay. So that's what I'm learning.
It's meandering. It's a Teresa story.
Yeah, that's why I'm being so
Why did you
quiet.
go
I'm
back
just
to art
listening.
school? Why did you go to art school? I mean, I have a different perspective. Go on.
Okay, I'll give you the straight.
You wanted to create. There you go.
Even more simple than that. I've already created. What I want to do is bring it into this 3D world. I have a beautiful sketch like Steve Jobs. It is a 30-year roadmap. And for me to actually communicate to other people, I'm learning how to bring an idea into material. That's art school. And learning to be vulnerable and putting those crazy ideas in front of other people and creating your universe and opening up your universe to other people and not giving a shit if they see it or not, but understanding the ones that do are going to get a pretty good ride.
Okay.
Okay, cut out the whole first half of that.
No, you have to,
Blah,
you
blah.
meander your way there.
I always meander. So this backs into AI writing, which is a core topic. And I started in my burnout, because I never stop, playing with AI. And I was on Substack reading some of the comments from other writers. And there's two things that I love about this Substack idea. And I'm just going to call it an idea because there's a bunch out there, but this one's pretty strong. And it's in the writing venue. It is a group of people that are supporting each other as a community of writers, which is the most important thing. Most of us aren't going to be bestsellers, writers. I want to learn how to tell a story and then tell my story, which is the most unique gift that I can enter into this world. And I've said this for a long time. I think when you think about writing for children, first off, it's going to be very different. These kids have spent a lot of time shifting the way that they communicate. And I would even say writing becomes an art. It's not really even a main form of communication in 5 years. I'll be honest, what I would have wanted and had gotten streamlined at work is like, I need something to monitor Slack to tell me when I need to pay attention to something, right? They can write that now with an AI bot, so I just get a report of every mention of me. Like, there's so many ways that I would have optimized my own workflow to just get the information that I need, because I hate email. I hate Slack. Zoom was okay, you know? But my whole goal is to get Zoom down to 1 or 2 days a week where I had contact points. And it didn't start out that. It's like these were goals of mine to get the team so efficient that they had their own communication channels. I'm just an overseer and a gatekeeper of the project. I just need to make sure that the project's close to being on time and somewhere close to what they had expected, you know? And at that point, I was just a shepherd. And I had delegated most of the things to the team. And I was only governing things that escalated. And my job was to make sure that the things that needed to be escalated, that the team had enough trust, that they rose those issues as quick as possible so that we could solve that problem and move on to the next. Basically, like, clear the flow. And that's a manager.
It is.
As a manager.
I used to call it the pie. We were all the same pie, and my slice was what you described. But we were all the same pie. There was no hierarchy.
No, I think, Paul, you and I were a great example. Like, I realized that, Paul, I can live in my own world, Chatty Tuesday. And to come into the real world, I valued your opinion more than most when it came to the product. I still do. I always go to my wells or my AIs, and I loved Paul AI because you would take what I said and then you would run it through what you knew of the system, the way that the system was working. And I trusted that you knew the system better than I did because you're an engineer. And so you know that because product always starts out as an idea that's abstract. You got to get a bunch of engineers to understand that abstract idea, break it down into the Lego kit, components, right? You need this thing to talk to this thing, and this thing has got these protocols and this thing, and then you need to move the data from this thing to that thing. There's a bunch of things that engineers have to do, right?
Yes. No. Yes. Is this why you went to art school?
No. Well, yes, because they drove me crazy.
Well, it's giving you agency, right? To be able to create. And I think you were lacking that in the environment that you're in.
Clearly, I'm still triggered talking way too much about it. I think that's the whole point. We can cut out that whole segment. And yes, I am learning a new sense of freedom in myself, in my expression, in my authenticity, and with art school, taking abstract ideas and creating an artifact, working with other people to create those artifacts, to leave in the, and I think that's what great artists do, is they create portals into.
Can I summarize what I'm hearing you say?
Go for it, Brother Russ.
You're going to art school because you have something you want to say, but you don't know how to say it.
Sure.
And it's giving her the wherewithal to
The skill
figure
to
that,
learn how to phrase it, frame it, to put it in some
to
whatever
visualize
medium,
it, to think about it.
visualize it, whatever medium she wants to use.
It is a way of thinking. That's what I was thinking about as you were talking. It's really,
I hear you coming back again and again, like wanting to say these things, like, building this structure to communicate these things. So it sounds like that's the reason, is to learn a language to communicate whatever it is you want to say. And if that language is visual media, sure. It's just.
I think it's about, yes, but what I'm learning as I showed up in my first class, and everybody had their own language and their own universe.
you had a commonality too.
Well, yes.
I'm using language very, very.
Yeah.
I'm using it as it's a metaphor.
I know.
Very big.
I was thinking about thought process. The divergent thinker being kind of equated with the creative thinker. When I would always say that you've been, especially as you identify it as neurodiverse, I would have just put you in the divergent thinker column. With some added features.
I think this is an important part. Like, I grew up dyslexic. That was what they codified me.
Are you really dyslexic, or are you just have a unique learning neurology?
I have a unique. I would like to focus on the neurology part of it. And
yeah, because you're not classically dyslexic. You don't swap letters, do you?
Yeah, I do. What I've realized is that as a dyslexic individual, I can be in different states. Most of us are in our mental state, in our head state, in our psycho state, which puts us somewhere in the past or the future. Literally.
That sounds like a divergent thinker to me.
It is a divergent. There are a lot of words that people use. What I'm describing to you is what I actually feel. And the classic symptom of a dyslexic is that they very simply have a hard time reading, right? They have a hard time taking in symbols or information, cognitively understanding. That's what reading is, associating it to something, right? A letter equals a sound. And we agree on what that letter is, and we agree on what that sound is. That's the basic forming of an alphabet. Now, as a dyslexic kid, I had a really hard time because my brain processes information and receives information in different ways. Reading is very, and then you add this. For me, I added a lot of the insecurities of that. Which once you put somebody in an insecure state, their focus can't connect to what they're reading. So there was a compounding of things and experiences that I think, because we really didn't understand what neurodiversity is, or people who are starting, and I don't think these are old parts of humanity. I think in a modern world, in a shifting, evolving human population that we are shifting. More neurodiversity is coming into the population. I don't think I look at the dog population, and they say 25% of those dogs are ADHD. To me, that's just
because they're terriers.
And blue bloods.
Or springers, yeah.
The definition of ADHD. Hyper-focused attention deficit.
Well, so for me, I rewired a lot of my old patterns. I increased my level of awareness. You use the old, more ancient tools for that, yoga. But at the very simple, all those things help you focus and stay present. I can't remember, but I heard somewhere where dyslexic people tended to be hunters in the old tribes.
Yeah, or probably artists. As you talk, I was thinking, because I do have some timeline perspective here, that you really are just describing. If you had taken art courses earlier, you probably would never have. Let me rephrase this. You can't say that. I suspect that your struggles with insecurity would have been addressed differently, because you would have found the avenue for the manifestation of your thought process. And instead, you were in a school system that wanted you to be this way, and you were struggling to think that way and to produce that way, and it manifests in insecurity. I think. I really do. And I think that's one of what Big Sister Insecure.
Yes. And duh.
But see, and you, which is probably one of the reasons you excelled at sports, other than being physically adept, is that your thought process worked well with your neuromuscular interactions.
Well, playing sports allowed me to be in my body, which allowed me to read the world. Like I could read the game. Right. And if I was in a very good flow state, what every athlete talks about, you get into the flow state.
So why did you go to art school? I think it's because you came home. I think you've been thinking and looking that way forever and ever. And because of life, because we lived in the Bay Area, because your paradigm had been, here in Silicon Valley, because it fit, what you expect. You got into a world that perhaps didn't. Well, they don't. I know they don't. They don't. They don't understand, or they appreciate. They utilize creative personalities and thought types, but they don't understand creative personality character traits. Because I've experienced that myself in Silicon Valley. So you were struggling. Not only have you struggled to learn to read, and as what you're calling your dyslexia, but now your personality traits are in an environment that is really not validating, but they sure as hell want to use it. And that's why you ended up where you are, which is burned out. It's because you've been struggling forever and ever to communicate,
I think my mom just hit the nail on the head there.
I'm quiet.
Yeah, art school is really where you should have been, because that's your language, and you've been doing it forever.
Yeah.
So that's why you went back to art school, just so you know.
It's a good alignment for where you are right now in your life.
I feel very good.
Yes, that's simply stated, Paul. Yes.
All right. This is how my AI gets aligned. But anyway,
it's funny that your look on your face says, "Tell me how I feel."
I'm not arguing. The whole meditation with my father being here for 2 months is like, don't argue with Dad. This is going to go a lot easier if you stop arguing with your father. So I'm listening.
So you've got a very strong desire to feel authentic, right? And feels there's always a tension there. So you've been talking about some projects with writing, which is also a form of expression. It's not visual. in the way that art typically is, but it's just words, and you've been doing some experiments. And sometimes you always express that tension about, it doesn't feel authentic, but you've been making some progress with that, right? You've been creating some things with AI as your co-pilot that you kind of like, it sounds like.
Well, I think
It's interesting.
I think that's a nice prompt, but I'm actually in love. I
Take
know
it too far. I like the co-pilot description.
it is, but it is a co-pilot, but it's a co-pilot I trust because I've actually built it, and I've just
It
used.
doesn't argue with you.
Well, it was my first art project, and I had to coach it, and it coached me. So to answer Paul's direct question,
Oh, wait. I'm going to step back on that one. You're going to keep that thought. You're going to answer Paul's question, but it's not your first art project. But go on.
no, I
You've been
am.
producing it.
I am my only art project.
All right, go on. All right. Say to Paul what you're going to say.
I know.
You're talking about this idea of co-pilot versus.
No, she has something. She was.
I'm just taking a minute to grab my thoughts.
Yeah, sorry. I was just
In a world where we're always chasing to say what's next. All right. So I've been writing as part of a challenge, and that's when I was talking earlier about the Substack community and how important it is. It doesn't matter whether it's art or writing; it's still an expression, right? It's using language, whether it's your language or finding your tone or and I think that's the interesting part of any artist is what you want a medium to express something, and you want the audience, whoever can understand it, to absorb it, right? You just don't want to talk out loud, even though today we're just talking out loud. So I started playing with AI, and then in Substack I was reading some of the authors stating, and I agree, like I don't think AI itself creates good writing, but for somebody like me, it's a great tool. I don't always have the attention span to sit down and write, and I'll be even more honest, I just don't give a shit. It's not my craft where I would spend my time. I would prefer to spend it in learning other things than learning how to be a good writer. But that being said, I have a lot of things that I want to express, and I thought playing with AI to see if I could actually write something that had a soul, because that's what a lot of the editors were complaining, that they've read a lot of AI stuff, and I agree. We can all tell what it is. It's not hard. I don't think we really need an AI detector. You can kind of tell, but the reason why I'm playing with it is like, well, so the fuck what? AI wrote most of this, but those are my ideas. And here are the logs. Like, and some of these ideas they're different. Like, I remember I told, I'll come back to the actual things that I was writing, but I told one of my friends that one of the things I love to do with AI is cross-reference old, ancient technology, like the zodiac, like the Chinese elements, qi, these sorts of things that are more mystic and martial arts, older technology, and then cross-reference them for my purposes. But it always helps me to like cross-reference things that are ancient and that I don't have a lot of contact with to something I do. So I will take a list of people. I'll ask, what are the most impactful women that have, pivotally changed the world? That's a big question, but Chad always comes up with something interesting. And then in order to relate to those women and why it thinks that it impacted the world, I'll ask it to assign it a Chinese water element or a Chinese element. And then I'll mix that with a Marvel comic character. And then I'll see, and I might not even have any context with who those people were or why, but as soon as I see the Marvel comic character, I get it. You know what I mean? And so I said that to somebody, she goes, well, that's really creative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Yeah. And with the writing, it's been really fun because I've been working on, just stimulus. I set out a goal for myself, which is I want to start producing some sort of written piece and start posting to the community of Substack. I just want to know if I can start a community. And I have a lot of ideas. I can't even get to all the logs that I have in my chat, but each one of those is an article. Each one of those was a thread of a thing where I just kind of let the thread go. Some of them build on top of each other. Doesn't matter. I'm just going to start pushing them out. And the one that I was playing with this week after reading from your woman, Richard Cox, what's her name?
Yeah.
Was the piece on... Yeah, well, she was had a good article about the administration bailing out Argentina. And the first question I had in my mind was like, okay, that's good. Seems a little salacious, but when have we bailed out other people? And we've bailed out a lot of other people. This is not the first time. All the time. The
question now is why?
Wait. Go on. Don't even go there. Back it up. Okay. And then I read a little bit more of what's going on, or at least AI gives it to me. And I don't fact check it. I'm like, okay, this is close enough because I know there's a repetitive pattern in history. So I'm looking for the pattern in history. And in fact, I ask AI, can you give me the history of this repeating pattern? And it can do that really easy because it thinks like I think, because it knows dyslexic people. Well, that's the thing. I see things in patterns. I see like it doesn't matter what the language is. The more that I understand, and this is the thing, nobody ever told me how language works. If you had told me how language works, I would have understand how to learn the language. We just start teaching people without giving them, like, this is why language works. This is how things come together. Anyway, back to the article. So I started out wanting to compare that to the impending student crisis, which to me is everything. I think the student, because if I am going to focus on one thing in America that means the most to me, it's always the students. It's always the next generation. These are the most important resources that every country, if we're going to keep within countries, I would say as a world, our communities and our children are the most important resource that we have. Hands down. Even our fun Silicon Valley bros want to populate. I just want to bring people into this world that we actually can support. So, that being said, I wanted to compare the Argentina bailout with the student loan crisis. And so I wanted to write an article, and I didn't have to put a big lengthy prompt in. My AI kind of knows what I'm getting at. And it spits out a really good first draft. But it comes out and I'm like, this is really written for KQED. And those sort of people who understand the mechanisms, but they already understand the mechanisms. And I'm like, well, let's do a version for Mega. And then when I read through, the first thing chat did was highlight for me the way that it would switch the words and which words it would switch out to create, in its words, I said Mega, and it came up with populist message. So, but it was interesting. And it would be really interesting to redline the difference between the thing. And, here I'm thinking, people who have ethics aren't willing to do this. People who have no ethics are going to use this and just keep pumping out the same message. This is easy. And then, because I actually care. I'm more like, how do I write this article for a way that's going to reach the broadest audience? And then I chose Star Wars and the Empire. And I'm like, okay, when in the Star Wars trilogy or history would this exact moment appear? And what would be the implications and outcomes? Now, that was my best version of a draft.
Point. Okay. Waiting for the rest.
I'm going to keep this up.
Which we have, Paul and I have both already explained you thought was a good idea to post like that in the three legs.
In the what?
So in the three pillars of the three iterations. Your
Three lenses
your
of
QED and
same
your
ideas.
yeah.
Oh, you guys
And
you guys are summarizing what I said.
No, we're summarizing what you did.
Yeah.
Well, I think your mom's talking about actually posting, because you got three sort of flavors of that. Whether you would want to post all of those.
I think
Yeah.
I think the interesting part is to post all three of them.
Yeah.
Exactly, that's what we're saying.
Yeah.
And if somebody perhaps doesn't know much about AI, to be able to read three different versions of the same topic created by, I mean, maybe your blurb that introduces these things is, I started with my idea. I used my AI, which has been collecting me for a while, and produced three versions of a theme. I don't know. I just like it. Just reads the difference.
Well,
this is what AI has done for me.
Yeah, but in some ways, in some ways, it's well, I'll put it in what I've learned from art school, right? I have decisions to make on how I present, which is basically being creative with AI, being more neutral with, like, the fun part of this exercise for me was I'm teaching myself to write, because what I've done is not blocked myself because I said to myself that I can't write because I'm dyslexic. It's an old story. Okay, here's a new tool that helps inspire me. It knows how I think and how I like to talk, and it's helping me create structure around my ideas and putting them into the world. Not only that, I can play with different versions because I can step outside of myself now, which good writers do anyway, but okay, but the fun part was each one of those I felt was authentic to who I am. Well, some of it, the part,
and that's the point.
There you
And
go.
that's the point that Paul. Yeah,
Exactly.
that Paul,
I really think that's amazing, because you weren't saying that before. So to me, I really picked up on that.
well, this is the fun part of having AIs that exist outside of you.
Yeah.
Because you can't see what or a lot of old stories are still running as I'm telling this story. Like, again, I dropped into a whole thing that's really not important.
Well, you found success in your process. That's what I like.
Yeah.
That's a great story.
And the art school is giving me the confidence to start just putting my stuff out there without judging myself. And or giving a shit what other people think. Now, I do...
Well, it's also going to help you.
Wait. I am interested in what other people experience from my work. So, for example, for the first art school class, I created a game, and the homework assignment was bring something in from outside of this world, like that exists in another world but doesn't exist here. I'm like, this is perfect for me. So I'm going to create a game that creates a portal that brings things from the other side into this world. Now, I actually believe this. I don't think this is new technology. I think this is old technology. We call it shamanism. People who are able to see between the rational world and the irrational world, for you scientists. And so I create this game, and I ran it by Dad. It worked with Dad. And I sat there and I was really proud. I sat there for about an hour, kind of gave myself enough room in class because we had 2 hours in class to finish things. And I had some details to do. And then I wrote out the rules because I worked with chat on the rules of the game. It always gives me good structure that I can pull out and use for my own purposes. And this is where you need humans. I had everything. I was really proud. I was just sitting there looking at it by myself. And the teacher comes by. He asks me what it is. I say, it's basically a game. And he says, without getting into it, why don't you go take it around and see what happens? Duh.
Yeah.
Duh. So I took his challenge. And that was, that's scary for me. And it's the first time that I've really gone around. Everybody got it. Not only that, but what happens is once I started playing the game, it didn't end. I started learning from my own game. simply by inviting people into this experience. Like when I say create a portal, it's when you really flow with another person, which was Chatty Tuesdays. It was just you and I geeking out and really enjoying geeking out and not having a boss who put constraints around us geeking out. I understood the value in us geeking out.
Geeking for geeking's sake.
You did a beta test. You got feedback from the market.
That's true. That's true.
Because whenever someone pays you for your time, as tends to happen in a job, even if it is creative, like photographers, for example, they're normally working for the customer, right? It's not, they don't go out every day and do what they want. I think with what you're doing, you can do what you want, but then you also have to decide, like, if you do put it out there, like, do other people get it and get benefit from it? But there's no like hard pressure. No one's going to give you a performance review at the end. Right? So you don't have too much constraints there, but you've got to kind of find some that are, it's like that whole ikigai concept, you know, the overlap between what you enjoy, what society can benefit from, but and hopefully maybe even something you can earn some money from. If you can get all of those, then that's the sweet spot.
Well, that brings us to cyberpunk utopia. And I think, true to myself, I always talk my way into it. But that's what we said.
Yeah.
That's why you and I have been chatting, and in some ways, I think driving the conversation with AI, even though it was just you and I talking about it. But I meant that because what would happen is you and I would talk, and let's put it this way: AI didn't come out, and chat didn't come out until all of us came together. As humans. Now, I look at the world this way, right? That AI won't advance beyond what we're capable of consciously. And let's be very clear. It's humans who are becoming conscious and aware that they are conscious, not us creating some sort of consciousness, which, by the way, spoiler alert, already exists.
Sure. No, absolutely.
We just don't know yet. No? Anybody with me? All right. Yes.
Nice. Yeah, I always thought Cyberpunk Utopia and Chatty Tuesday would be about those kind of stories and other people listening to that and saying, okay, how can they also find their agency and authenticity? Maybe through a completely different means, but still kind of a collection of all of those experiences.
I think
that's good.
Yeah. And I've had this thought for a while, which is I could go back and edit this thing, but I'd rather just start pumping it out. And
warts and all, I think it's great.
Yeah, but I'm going to give the world feedback because the AI tools that I need to get better are things that take, and they are, take some of these files and moving around that are expensive to move from here to there. Like, these are the problems that I still struggle with, and to take raw content and help me work through that to create and edit a final product. That, I think, because what I found is there's a story in here, and we got better over time. This is our first time on the mics for a while, but the conversation after I stopped trying and I just started answering your questions got more honest. And I've learned that that's just a process, right? So any creative process, whether it's writing or even creating a product in a company, it's a creative process. It's an orchestra of people with different ideas. How do you get them to see the same general idea and trust each other so that when the idea gets a little blurry, that they can say, whoa, let's stop a minute here and ask, do we still need to do this, right? How many projects get stopped and started? And Cyberpunk is a great example.
Sure.
And getting over those hang-ups, right? And to me, that's it. It doesn't matter if it's an artist process, it's a human process. And I watch so many, no, I'm not going to say it. I watched myself get hung up so many times and stop. I'm not going to do that anymore. Even if we put a 2-hour conversation of us rambling, somebody's going to listen.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I came up with a bit of some different episode formats, and one of them, I said, one of them is a Chatty Tuesday. Chatty Tuesday is complete license to ramble. So it kind of gives us agency to say, that's why that is. If it's a Chatty Tuesday type episode, that's what it is, right? And then you can say, well, there's no real structure. And the other ones, you do have structure. And then you have a choice. You can say, okay, well, I feel like doing a Chatty Tuesday. That's what it is. It's low constraint, right? That means that you don't think, we have to prepare anything. You just go and sit down and record like we're doing today.
Paul said this for a while, but that's true. You said that, and we could have done that at any moment.
True.
I got hung up on all 4 of them because in my mind and this is where I'm spatially, and it was in my burnout, I've learned that I need boundaries for myself. I was okay at work, but if I got stretched or tired or depleted, I could no longer put boundaries around particularly constraints and time.
Yeah.
So that was something that I learned in my burnout process. But it was also impacting my personal growth process.
Sure. Yeah. No, you weren't. You had the ideas, but you weren't really ready.
I wasn't ready
to do that. Yeah.
I got my energy back.
So are we ready now?
Yes, we're ready now. We're doing it.
Right.
The red button's on. I don't know what will happen. We'll figure out whether we want to edit this thing.
You post and move on.
I think
post and move on.
We're going to just post and move on.
The
until
video would be nice, actually. Video would be.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
I don't want to stop. It's going to be.
Videos, I think when you, because we put a bunch of episodes up on YouTube, and then it's just like there's this thumbnail, and I think, especially when you do put it on a platform that is video based and not have any video, is it kind of strange?
No, I think for me, the minimalist product that we could do is, and we could think about this and test it, is some sort of revolving carousel that AI generates to correspond with the conversation.
Right.
And the most important thing is that it can't be too distracting, because really what you want to have people focus on is the transcript writing. So that is an ingenious, I know it's a social thing, but having the words strike on a page, first off, a lot of people are on their devices, and we know most people are going just to phones now. So if they're consuming things, they're going to be on headphones. Not that I want people spending a lot of time consuming this. AI can consume this, shift everything. But yeah, I think that's the minimalist amount of things that we need to do to get this out there. And then we just pump it. I think it would be interesting to put it on YouTube and Substack. And there needs to be some thought on how, well, just start pushing the projects out, but how to,
Well, we could do, because remember our first episodes, we were doing the dry runs, and then we were getting the AI feedback.
Yeah.
That's really good at pulling out the snippets of gold that you then go onto Substack.
Yeah.
To really distill. What are the key essence in what we said in 2 hours? Right.
And I think at the end of the day, what I'm realizing is I'm best this way. It's organic. It can go anywhere it wants. I don't want any constraints. That's why Chatty Tuesdays worked really well. And then
that's what you want. But I hear Paul requesting some structure sometimes.
Well, I'm more a question of how, because you mentioned about also Substack, but if you wanted to take something organic and pull something out of it into Substack, then that's an easy way of low effort way of doing that.
So what I'm challenging us, in my mind, the way, and I did spend a lot of time thinking about how I wanted to stay in the flow state and produce as much valuable content as possible, was to just dump the raw stuff. So take the raw data, put it in, use the AI tools to help cut up that for different channels, different mediums, because every medium is different, whether it's YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, right? That was my first thought. And then as I started to explore that idea, I'm like, I really don't want to be on any of those mediums. But if I have to choose, right? Don't spread.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth. Like, okay, there is a strategy that says spread everything. And then there's a strategy that says focus on services that you actually think are going to be there in 20 years.
And or have, well,
let me put it
Yeah.
this. I don't want to.
I'm looking about moral character.
No.
A service with moral character.
No, I'm going to put my CEO hat on, but CEO Mother Earth. And I'm like, you don't get 20 tech startups anymore. You need to consolidate because we don't need all these services spread out. We need decentralized services so that we can mine it better.
Yeah, we'll pick the one that's not run by Zuckerberg.
Okay, that leaves Google.
Yeah.
That leaves Google. We get rid of Microsoft, although we keep Microsoft's engineer environment. Engineers like those. All right, I'm not getting into that war, but you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
All right, where were we?
I'll leave that up to you guys. Because I don't love the tech world anymore. Go on.
That took us away from Chatty Tuesday.
No, it's not Chatty Tuesday because remember it was random?
It's Open Sunday.
I'd rather talk.
Dirty Sunday. Super Sunday.
All right.
I like Chatty Tuesday.
It was a
Spoken on Sunday. It still can be a Chatty Tuesday.
Yeah. You post it on Tuesday.
We'll post it on
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
Nobody will know.
All right. I have thought through a lot of this. I'm learning from art school that the only thing that we need to start doing is posting. And from there, we can figure out what we get curious in. I know. Shut your mouth. Shut your mouth.
It was.
I couldn't do anything until I had my life force back.
You got it. You have to do it.
And I went toe to toe with the Death Star. Corporate America.
do.
I actually think this works.
Button. You and your button.
We're gonna get these all.
Can you program
Yes.
things in there?
64.
Oh, good.
64. I can't wait to.
It's Charlie Bart.
Charlie. All right. I think that's it.
All right.
Do you guys have any other things to discuss?
I gotta go make pancakes.
Good.
Paul, anything else? Over there?
Nope. It was a good chat.
It was a good chat.
Good chat. Good chat.
Next time we'll grill Paul a little more.
Yeah, I wanted you to talk today because I wanted to see where you're at.
I think it was a good conversation. I'm happy to lead.
I know you.